player on the opposite end of the dichotomy of the role player is often referred to as the rules lawyer. How would you deal with the role
Brandon.
player? Yeah, it is me in my group. I'm super guilty of this. But how would you deal with
Well,
the person who has the great role playing experience, but then the guy chimes in and is like, "Oh, your spell goes 15 feet, and you are 25 feet away from the thing you're trying to cast at. Thank you."
well, in the same regards, let's ask you that. How do you deal with the DM's decision when you are rules lawring and you say, hey, they have no material components. They're literally naked in a gel. How do they cast that spell?
You adequately check me on my BS every once in a while.
But
Uh,
also, how do you, as a player on that other side, as a rule lawyer, so somebody who is so familiar with the rules, you don't want to break from that reality, and yet you don't want to be the one to stop the game, but it just doesn't fit with you. How do you handle that?
yeah, it's rough because in my head it comes down to the creative role playing person is playing what they see in their head, and they're doing that, and the rules lawyer is also trying to do that in the way that they understand, which is they think of the numbers and the distance and stuff, and in their head, that spell that they're describing is going 15 feet, when the other person's describing it as a fireball that encases the whole room. And it's pulling the rules lawyer out, and there, I am guilty of it, of not having a healthy way of being like, hey, what's really going on? Because I think you're right, there's a give and take. There's sometimes where the rule of cool needs to happen because the rule of cool is the way that everyone has fun and it's good. And then there's the other way of like, there needs to be some sort of confinement or rules that we all play by, or else there's no need for dice or any of it. We just sit around telling a story. I think you're
Tim, you're
muted.
muted.
Sorry, thank you. One of the things you had said before in one of our sessions was about a fireball, and it was like in a 15 by 15 room. And I looked at you, and you knew exactly what was happening. So it's one of those where, as the rules lawyer, once again, that's a strategic way of play. Where you come from, I believe, a wargaming background. And so you have to have that exact measurement, that range, that distance. And so it's not to discredit that. Those rule lawyers are needed besides keeping it based in a reality and having the mechanics work. You also need to understand, well, I'm sorry, your rogue can't cast fireball at first level because there is no fire.
Yeah, I I get that. Um, I think the other type of player that may cause problems in gaming sessions, and I'll throw this one to Bryce for no particular reason at all, is the
Okay.
power gamer, or the gamer that that will go through all the rules, and they'll do their research and they'll min max everything, and
Don't
then
forget the errata. Do
yeah,
not forget
the
the errata. This is
errata,
very important.
the everything that anyone on the Dungeon Guild has ever thought of, or and then they'll come with like Super Saiyan Goku to a level 1 encounter, and from a DM that's hard to like balance, because you could throw enemies at them that would be a challenge to Super Saiyan Goku and completely annihilate the other three players at the table, or you could let Super Saiyan Goku just carve through goblins like he's nothing, and the other characters are like having a little bit of challenge, but then the other characters look at this one guy and they're like, well, obviously me as a person through character bleed isn't as good of a person as the power gamer because I'm not able to do the things he could do. So how do you address that issue, and how do you play, Bryce?
I will build a powerful character, but I've also built characters that are only support. You haven't seen them in our games, but when I play other games through work and things like that, when I'm meeting a lot of new people, a lot of times I will build a character that sits back. But as a DM, usually when I have gamers that are doing things like this at the start of a session, I might say, okay, listen, we're not going to multi-class or something like that if it's a major problem. But the easiest way to fix the power gamer is generally a powerful character will only really be good at one or two things, and everything else it'll be terrible at. So let's say, for instance, we have somebody who is really good at fighting one really strong monster. So we got a guy who's dual wielding, gets one or two attacks, and he's just smiting the crap out of everything. We'll use a paladin. Throw a lot of little characters at him. It's going to be harder to get those attacks off. Or if combat is their specialty, start throwing puzzles at them. Or if they're the only one who doesn't have dark vision, guess what? It's dark now. You can specifically design encounters to allow other players to shine, as opposed to that one that is taking too much of the spotlight. I think Ryan had something to say.
More something to the point of Brandon's instigations towards being a Super Saiyan Goku.
No instigations.
There's some classes that are either what do they call them? Not errata.
Unearthed Arcana.
Yes, UAs that are in the works, like the Blood Hunter class that I have experience with now because I'm in our campaign. I'm playing a Blood Hunter. At low levels, it is pretty incredibly powerful, but I think we're level 4, 3, 4, 4? And
I believe you're at 4, you're about to roll into 5.
Yep. And I haven't let the rest of the crew know this. I let my wife know it. I'm keeping my character at level 3. The rest of the group is going to level 4. I'm keeping mine at level 3 because he's a little bit OP.
Well, the thing about Unearthed Arcana is it's playtest material and not necessarily actual material. A lot of gaming groups don't allow Unearthed Arcana, especially in the stores. A lot of them refer to Adventure League, which is a gaming league set up through WotC or Wizards of the Coast, who own the D&D intellectual property now. They'll only allow you to use stuff from books, and not only that, they'll only allow you to use the player's handbook and one additional supplementary book. So you could have a Kenku, which is a bird person for people who don't know, that's not in the player's handbook, the main rule book. And what's this? Nothing. But you can only use, that was you. You can only use that and the player's handbook. Or you can use a race from the player's handbook, and you can use a subclass from Xanthar's Guide to Everything. So they will be taking there's a PDF you can fill out on the Unearthed Arcana pages and send back to them your feedback. So I imagine before it becomes canonical material that they'll make some adjustments, like they did with a lot of the other classes that have since become.
Go
ahead.
I also think that you shouldn't have to feel like your character's OP playing it. I think that the Blood Hunter is on the same power curve that fighters and paladins are on, and not on the power curve.
Definitely around the paladin.
Not on the power curve that the wizard and the druid and the other classes are on, which are the reverse power curve. Wizards, they start out and they're like, I static shock you, and then at the end they are like, oh, I cast a fireball and now I'm changing reality. Like it gets real close.
Or I stop time and then make a wish.
Yeah, it's like real powerful right at the end. Where fighters, they get a lot of their cool stuff right off the bat, like the Blood Hunter does, gets a lot of his cool stuff right off the bat, and then towards 10 to 15, they're more of a plateaued increase than
Yeah.
the crazy wizard increase. So
Well, in that,
yeah,
Ryan, were you talking about you reducing your own power on your own play? How did we play it? Like when you were hiding and attacking, some things didn't even require a roll. So it takes the power out of it. And
Yeah.
you just come down and you could do basically a assassinate skill thing because it's just built into what your class is. But it's taking that and applying it outside of the context of what your powers are. A lot of times you will deviate from the group. You will go ahead of the group so that if there is an encounter, it's a separate encounter. And then you could be that early warning system for the rest of the group. And in this case, with the setting we're playing right now, you all get overwhelmed with hordes of zombies. So great, you can take down 4 zombies at a time. Every person is still taking down their own thing. And you're not having to make it so OP that there's just one creature. The big baddie is attacking the powerful player and everybody else feels like they're the second act or something in the background.
Yeah.
It's just that you are the one out front. You're taking on the biggest risk. You run into all the big challenges first.
yeah,
Yeah, that is true. And I mean, at the same time, that first encounter we ran into, everyone else was taking on the minions, and I took out 2 minions and captured the commander or something to that effect. And I mean, by the rest of the team didn't know it, but by the time that had happened, if the commander had done one more point of damage to me, that could have gone real bad for everyone.
And in the same regards, that turned into a roleplay session. When you brought the commander in, people started questioning them for information. And then when you get tired of it, you played to your role and put a crossbow bolt in his head.
Yep. Well, that was partially to cut down on an extended RP session.
But it still played into both your character and it allowed, I don't know, did anyone else feel like they weren't challenged during that first encounter?
I don't think that was a problem.
no,
Um,
I particularly
just-
made a character
go
to
ahead.
try and keep everyone from dying. So I feel like I adequately did that.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, each type of character that we have in there brings in their own unique thing. Where Jess is bringing in a life cleric who is doing healing, but she's also just doing attacks from the side and so forth. And here you are also trying to be a support character, but you keep mashing people's faces in with just the end of your mace. So you get in graphically of what you're doing, but you're both doing your role playing in your own way. And then you have the others. You have your players who are ultra powerful and able to literally just wade through, and then those who are in the advance and they're challenging things to bring it to the group. So it's not always that you have to build an encounter to each group. It's just as the group runs into the encounter, how do they face it? And then you adjust accordingly. If one person's kicking everybody else's butt, then of course normally those who are attacking are either going to run away from that person or gang up on that person. I mean, that's the logic of it. So, but it's that I believe one of the websites they have is these creatures know what they're doing. These monsters know what they're doing. And so if you read that additional text and information into it, you can realize, oh, hey, why does a blink dog blink? What is its inherent trait for besides just you miss?
I actually
so
believe
there's
that's
things
a
like that.
book called The Bad Guy Knows What They're Doing.
Yeah, there's a website too that also had, I believe he took his information and put it into a book.
I also picked up I think it was a Kickstarter that I had done that was something to the effect of the dungeon always wins, and it's all of the players are playing the creatures of the dungeon. So
Yeah, I believe I've seen that. I think it was based off of a meme actually about a simple farmer who acquires a small piece of treasure, and then someone tries to take it, and then he takes their treasure,
yeah.
and yeah, it's quite funny. But